Have you ever wondered why some people seem to effortlessly handle negativity while others are completely consumed by it? What if I told you there's an ancient philosophy that could completely transform your approach to life's challenges? Today, we're going to dive into how you can stop taking negativity personally and start thriving, all by tapping into the wisdom of Stoicism. Get ready to discover the remarkable ways your mind can become your greatest ally. Stoicism is far more than just emotionless detachment, as many people mistakenly believe. It's a profound system of thought that originated in ancient Greece and later flourished in Rome. Great minds like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius lived by these very principles. They learned to distinguish between what was within their control and what was not, and this ability became the very key to their tranquility and resilience. So let's begin with a fundamental principle of Stoicism that can profoundly change your approach to life: the dichotomy of control. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Yet in practice, it's a profound wisdom capable of freeing you from immense suffering. Stoics like Epictetus clearly articulated this. In the world, there are things within our control and things entirely beyond it. Our primary task is to learn to distinguish between them. What then is truly within our control? Our thoughts, our judgments, our decisions, our reactions to what happens, our values, our actions. Simply put, our inner world. We choose how to interpret an event, how to respond to it, what conclusions to draw. This is our domain, our sovereignty. And what is beyond our control? Virtually everything else. The weather, other people's opinions, the actions of others, global events, the past, the future, and even our bodies and health in the long run. We might influence some of these things, but we can never fully control them. Imagine this scenario. You're on your way to an important meeting, and suddenly you hit a massive traffic jam. Your immediate reaction is anger, irritation, panic. I'm going to be late. This is awful. Why is this happening to me? In that moment, you're attempting to control what's uncontrollable: the flow of traffic, time, other people's decisions. And what's the result? You only amplify your suffering. Your mood is ruined. Your stress levels skyrocket. Yet the traffic jam won't magically disappear. The Stoic approach offers an alternative. Acknowledge that the traffic jam is beyond your control. You can't magically clear the road. But what can you control? Your reaction. You can choose to listen to an audiobook, practice some breathing exercises, call ahead and warn them you'll be late. You can even use this time for quiet reflection. By changing your internal state, you won't alter the external situation, but you will change your experience of it. You transform a potential source of stress into an opportunity for something else entirely. Attempts to control the uncontrollable are a direct path to frustration, anxiety, and anger. It's like trying to stop the rain with your bare hands. Pointless and utterly exhausting. But when you consciously shift your focus to what is truly within your power, you gain incredible strength and inner freedom. You stop being a puppet of external circumstances and become the master of your own mind. Let's move on to the second crucial principle, one that's closely linked to the first: acceptance. Many mistakenly view acceptance as a sign of weakness or passive resignation, but for Stoics, acceptance is an act of profound wisdom and immense strength. It doesn't mean you have to like or approve of everything that happens. It means you acknowledge reality exactly as it is, especially those aspects beyond your control. Imagine for a moment you've lost your job. Your initial reaction might be shock, anger, or despair. You might deny what's happened, blame everyone around you, including yourself. But the fact remains, the job is gone. Refusing to accept this reality only prolongs the healing process and delays taking action. You're expending energy resisting the inevitable, instead of channeling it towards finding a new solution. Stoic acceptance doesn't advocate for indifference. It urges you to acknowledge what is, so you can effectively work with it. When you accept the fact that you've lost your job, you free yourself from the emotional burden of resistance. And then you can ask yourself, okay, this has happened. What can I do now? Acceptance isn't about the absence of emotions. You can still feel sadness, disappointment, even anger. Stoics weren't advocates for suppressing feelings, but they taught not to get stuck in those feelings or let them dictate your actions. Acceptance allows you to observe your emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them and then move forward. Let's go back to our traffic jam example. You've accepted the fact that you're stuck. This frees you from wasting energy on pointless irritation. Instead, you can switch to something constructive. Plan out your day in your head, listen to an educational podcast, or simply enjoy the quiet. Acceptance gives you the freedom to choose how to use the present moment rather than being its prisoner. It's a powerful tool for conserving mental energy. Resisting reality is like trying to swim against the current. Acceptance, however, is the skill of flowing with the current, using its power to your advantage, or at the very least, not wasting energy in a futile struggle. It's the first step towards turning difficulties into opportunities. Moving forward, let's explore the next powerful tool in the Stoics' arsenal: shifting our perception. This is one of the most profound and liberating principles. Stoics believe that it's not events themselves that upset us, but our judgment and interpretation of them. As Epictetus famously said, it's not things themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about these things. This means the true source of our distress isn't the external world, but rather how we filter or interpret reality internally. Imagine someone criticizes your work. Your first natural reaction might be pain, resentment, anger, or a desire to defend yourself. You perceive the criticism as a personal attack, as proof of your incompetence. But this is your judgment of the event, not the event itself. But what if you shift your perception? What if you view criticism not as an attack, but as constructive feedback? Perhaps it's valuable insight that can help you grow. Or perhaps it's simply someone else's opinion that bears no direct relation to your inherent worth. In such a scenario, you can respond calmly, thank them for their perspective, or simply disregard it if it's unconstructive. The key lies in creating a pause between an event and your reaction to it. This pause is your moment of freedom. In that brief moment, you get to decide how you'll interpret what has occurred. You can choose to perceive a difficulty as a catastrophe or as a challenge, an opportunity for personal growth. Consider another example. You're in a minor car accident, a dented fender. Certainly it's inconvenient, but your reaction can vary greatly. You could fly into a rage, curse your luck, and dwell on it for days. Or you could choose to see it as a nuisance, but ultimately a solvable problem. You might think, well, it's just metal. It can be repaired. The important thing is that everyone is safe and sound. By shifting your perception, you reduce emotional tension and can approach the solution more rationally. This isn't about naive optimism. It's a conscious, deliberate choice of perspective. Stoics didn't advocate ignoring reality or pretending that everything was perfect. Instead, they taught us to actively seek an interpretation of events that allows us to maintain inner peace and act most effectively. Your inner freedom begins with control over your perception. By cultivating this ability, you unlock incredible power. Next, we'll explore a principle that might seem paradoxical, yet is incredibly effective: anticipating adversity. Many of us instinctively avoid thinking about negative outcomes, hoping they won't materialize. Stoics, however, actively practice what they called premeditation of evils, or premeditatio malorum. This isn't about pessimism or attracting problems. Instead, it's a deliberate preparation for potential difficulties, making them less daunting when they actually arrive. So, what does this mean in practice? From time to time, in a calm setting, visualize the worst-case scenario. For instance, imagine you're worried about an upcoming project. Instead of just feeling anxious, try asking yourself, what's the absolute worst that could happen? Will the project fail? Will I lose money? Could I get fired? Systematically go through each of these frightening possibilities. When you visualize these hypothetical misfortunes, you often find they're not as terrible as they seemed in your vague anxieties. You begin to realize that even in the worst-case scenario, you'll likely be able to cope. You might have a plan B, or you'll find a way to adapt. Or perhaps it's simply not the end of the world. This process allows you to try on potential pain and understand that it is, in fact, manageable. Take public speaking, for example. Instead of avoiding the thought, imagine you step onto the stage, forget your lines, stumble, and people laugh. Yes, it's unpleasant, but then what? You walk off stage. The world doesn't collapse. People will likely forget about it in a couple of days, and you'll have gained valuable experience, perhaps being better prepared next time. This vaccination against fear significantly reduces its intensity. Furthermore, anticipating adversity helps us appreciate what we have right now. When you imagine losing something valuable, your health, loved ones, or your job, you begin to cherish it far more in the present moment. You stop taking things for granted and learn to be grateful for the ordinary things you often overlook. This practice doesn't make you a fatalist. It makes you more prepared and less anxious. If something bad does happen, you've already lived through it in your mind, and it won't come as such a profound shock. And if it doesn't happen, you'll simply enjoy your current well-being with even greater awareness. Anticipating adversity is a powerful way to disarm fear and strengthen your inner resilience. Now let's talk about a practice that is incredibly simple, yet immensely powerful. Gratitude. In our modern world, filled with constant digital noise and the endless pursuit of the next big thing, we often lose sight of what we already have. The Stoics, however, understood deeply that even in the most challenging circumstances, there is always something to be grateful for, and this gratitude becomes a powerful shield against negativity. When we focus on what we lack or what's going wrong, our minds naturally drift into a state of scarcity and discontent. All we see are problems, but if we consciously shift our focus to what we can be thankful for, the entire perspective transforms. So, how do you find light even in the darkest moments? Start small. In the morning, instead of immediately reaching for your phone, think of 3 things you're grateful for. It could be anything: a warm cup of coffee, a soft bed, the sunlight streaming through your window, the health of loved ones, or the opportunity to learn or to work. The more specific, the better. Even when it feels like everything is going wrong, you can always find something. Caught in the rain? Great, now I can test my new jacket's waterproofing. Stuck in traffic? Perfect time to catch up on a podcast or simply enjoy a moment of quiet. Someone let you down? At least I learned a valuable lesson about trust. This isn't naivety. It's an active search for the positive, even in the most unappealing situations. A powerful example of this is keeping a gratitude journal. Each evening before bed, write down 3 to 5 things you were grateful for during the day. You'll be amazed how quickly your brain starts noticing the good around you, even if it was previously programmed to only spot problems. This simple practice reprograms your mindset, making it more resilient to negativity. Gratitude doesn't erase your problems, but it equips you with the strength and the right perspective to face them. It fills you with an inner warmth and a sense of abundance that no external circumstances can ever take away. Let's now talk about the crucial distinction between emotions and judgments. This is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, enabling us to avoid becoming slaves to our feelings. Stoics never advocated for being emotionless robots. They recognized that emotions like anger, fear, or sadness are natural human reactions. However, they drew a clear line. The emotion itself is one thing, but our judgment about that emotion and how we allow it to influence our actions is quite another. Imagine finding yourself in a confrontational situation. Someone has deeply angered you. Anger is a natural emotion. You feel a rush of heat, your heart races, and you have an urge to retaliate sharply. This is your initial, instinctive reaction. The Stoics would call this an initial impulse, a simple reaction to an external stimulus. But here's the crucial point. You can control how you react to that emotion. You can choose to succumb to the anger, yell back, and escalate the conflict. Or you can pause, acknowledge that you're feeling angry, and decide not to let it control you. You can tell yourself, I feel anger, but I am not my anger. I can choose how to act. This distinction allows you to avoid merging with your emotions. If you're angry, it doesn't mean you're a bad person or that the situation is hopeless. It simply means you are experiencing anger. And that's okay, but your wisdom lies in not allowing that emotion to dictate your decisions and actions. So, how do you prevent anger from controlling you? Practice the pause and observe method. When you feel a strong emotion arise, take a deep breath. Feel it in your body. Recognize that it's merely a fleeting state. Then ask yourself, what would a Stoic do in this situation? How can I react based on my values rather than just from impulse? This approach allows you to step out of automatic reaction mode. You become not a victim of your emotions, but an observer and ultimately their master. You learn to separate yourself from your feelings, giving yourself the space for a rational and virtuous response, instead of simply lashing out or panicking. This is a powerful step towards emotional freedom and inner harmony. Now let's turn our attention to action. Stoicism is often misunderstood as a philosophy of passivity or detachment from the world. Quite the opposite. It's a profoundly active philosophy that urges us towards deliberate and virtuous action. The core principle is this: actively work on what's within your control and serenely accept what isn't. When confronted with negativity, it's crucial to discern when to act and when to simply let go. If a problem falls within your sphere of influence, act. Don't passively wait for things to sort themselves out. The Stoics advocated for being active participants in your own life, employing your reason and energy to tackle challenges. For instance, if you're unhappy with your job and you have the power to change it by learning new skills, seeking a different position, or talking to your boss, then take action. Formulate a plan, take concrete steps, and exert effort. Inaction in a situation you can change is a direct path to frustration and missed opportunities. But what if the situation is entirely beyond your control? Imagine you've done everything possible for a project's success, only for it to fail due to external economic factors. In such a scenario, the Stoic advises us to let go, accept the outcome, learn valuable lessons, and redirect your energy towards what you can still control. Your next steps, your attitude towards the setback, your future planning. Wasting energy worrying about what's already transpired and can't be altered is utterly pointless. This is the principle of dichotomy of control in action. It demands courage, the courage to act when necessary, and the courage to accept when action is futile. Seneca wisely wrote that we should be neither inert nor impulsive. Instead, we must act judiciously, always considering the specific circumstances. When you're confronted with negativity, ask yourself, can I do something right now to change this situation? If so, what exactly? If the answer is yes, then act. If the answer is no, then accept it, let it go, and direct your thoughts and energy towards what is within your sphere of influence. This approach allows you to be proactive without wasting energy tilting at windmills. Your life isn't just a series of events. It's a chain of your reactions and deliberate actions. Now let's turn our attention to one of the central tenets of Stoicism, virtue. For the Stoics, a virtuous life wasn't merely about good behaviour. It was the supreme good and the only true source of happiness. They identified 4 core virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And it's these very qualities that serve as a powerful shield against negativity. How do these virtues help us navigate negativity? Wisdom is the ability to see things as they truly are, to make sound decisions, and to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. When you face a problem, wisdom helps you objectively assess the situation without succumbing to panic or overwhelming emotions. Instead of immediately falling into despair, a wise person will ask, what is actually happening? What are the facts? What are my options? Wisdom helps us avoid rash actions and find the optimal path forward. Justice. It isn't just about legality, it's about the right way to relate to other people. It means acting honestly, with respect, and with compassion. When you conduct yourself justly, you minimize conflicts and resentments that can become sources of negativity. If someone acts unfairly towards you, your own sense of justice helps you refrain from retaliating in kind, preserving your integrity and refusing to stoop to their level. This protects your inner peace from toxic interactions. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act rightly despite fear. When confronted with difficulties, criticism, or the potential for failure, courage gives you the strength to press on. This might be the courage to speak your mind, the courage to make a difficult decision, or the courage to face an unpleasant truth. Courage allows you to confront problems head-on, rather than avoiding them, knowing that you have the capacity to overcome them. It prevents the paralysis of fear, which often leads to even greater negativity. Temperance, or self-control, is the mastery over your desires and impulses. It's the ability to resist excessive pleasures or destructive emotions. When you are temperate, you don't allow fleeting outbursts of anger, envy, or greed to derail you. This enables you to maintain balance, make considered decisions, and avoid being tossed about on the swings of emotional extremes. Temperance is like a rudder for your inner ship, allowing it to stay on course even in a storm. These four virtues function as a unified system, strengthening your psyche and making you incredibly resilient to all forms of negativity. They form an inner core that cannot be broken by external circumstances. Now let's bring our focus to the present moment. This is another fundamental pillar of Stoic philosophy, concentrating on the here and now. So often we get stuck, either regretting the past or worrying about the future, completely forgetting to live in the only moment we truly possess, the present. And it's this neglect of the present that often becomes the source of immense negativity. The Stoics advocated for mindfulness, for complete presence in the current moment. The past is gone, and we cannot change it. The future hasn't arrived yet, and it's largely uncertain. The only thing we truly have any power over are our thoughts and actions right now. Why is living in the present a superpower? Because most of our suffering stems from either dwelling on past hurts and mistakes, or worrying about what might happen. When you fully immerse yourself in the present moment, those anxieties recede. Imagine you're walking in a park. If your mind is preoccupied with yesterday's argument or tomorrow's deadline, you'll miss the beauty of the trees, the singing birds, the fresh air. You'll be physically present in the park, but mentally, somewhere else entirely, filled with negativity. However, if you consciously focus on the present, you'll feel your steps beneath your feet, hear the sounds around you, notice the details. Your mind will be engaged with what is, rather than what isn't or what you fear. This simple shift in focus reduces stress and increases inner peace. The practice of mindfulness is the key to living in the present. This could be meditation, but it can also be simply performing everyday activities with conscious awareness. Washing dishes, focus on the feel of the water, the scent of the soap, the movements of your hands. Eating, savor each bite, its taste, its texture. Talking, fully listen to the other person rather than formulating your reply. When you live in the present, you become less vulnerable to external distractions. The past cannot hurt you and the future cannot cause anxiety if you don't allow them to intrude upon your now. This doesn't mean ignoring the past or failing to plan for the future. It means not letting them consume your precious present. Living in the present moment is an active choice to live a full life, free from unnecessary burdens. Let's dismantle one of the most pervasive myths surrounding happiness. Many people mistakenly view happiness as a perpetual state of euphoria, uninterrupted bliss, or the complete absence of problems. When these feelings are absent, they often find themselves feeling unhappy and disillusioned. The Stoics, however, offered a profoundly different understanding of happiness, one that acts as a powerful shield against negativity. For Stoics, happiness isn't an external circumstance or a fleeting rush of emotion. Instead, it's an inner harmony, a tranquility of the soul, ataraxia, and a life lived in accordance with virtue and reason, eudaimonia. This state isn't achieved by possessing material things, but by cultivating the right attitude towards what is and by making proper use of one's reason. Why is this understanding so crucial in combating negativity? If your happiness is contingent upon external factors, like wealth, praise, perfect relationships, or the absence of difficulties, then you will perpetually be vulnerable. The world is inherently imperfect. Problems will inevitably arise, and people will change. Each time something doesn't go according to plan, your happiness will crumble, leaving you in a state of frustration and discontent. The Stoic approach, on the other hand, allows you to find inner peace regardless of the external world. If happiness is indeed a virtuous life, then you can always be happy, because the choice to act virtuously is, always, within your power. You can embody wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, even in the most adverse circumstances, and it is precisely this that cultivates true, unshakable happiness. Consider for a moment someone who has lost all their material possessions. If their happiness was tied solely to material wealth, they would be utterly devastated. However, if their happiness is rooted in inner strength, courage, the ability to adapt, and gratitude for what remains, such as life, health, and loved ones, they can navigate this ordeal while preserving their inner dignity and peace. The Stoics taught that true happiness isn't about avoiding suffering, but about cultivating the right attitude towards it. It's about accepting that life is inherently full of challenges and using them as opportunities to strengthen character and develop virtues. When you stop chasing fleeting pleasures and external achievements as your primary source of happiness, you discover that true peace and joy have always resided within you, simply waiting to be uncovered. This is a powerful liberation from the shackles of external circumstances and a clear path to unshakable inner well-being. Let's talk about forgiveness now, both forgiving others and forgiving ourselves. It's an incredibly powerful tool that can free you from the immense burden of negativity we often carry for years. While the Stoics didn't speak of forgiveness in a religious sense, they deeply understood that resentment, bitterness, and guilt are destructive forces to our inner peace. When we hold a grudge against someone, we're essentially allowing that person or event to continue hurting us. We replay the negative scenario in our minds over and over, experiencing the same destructive emotions. As Buddha said, and the Stoics would surely agree, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's a punishment we inflict upon ourselves. Forgiveness isn't about condoning someone else's actions. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened or instantly trusting the person who hurt you again. Forgiveness is, first and foremost, an act of self-liberation. It's a decision to release the anger, resentment, and desire for revenge so these feelings stop poisoning your own life. It's a gift you give yourself, not the other person. So, how do we forgive? Start by recognizing that the person who hurt you likely acted out of their own ignorance, weakness, or limitations. Perhaps they were suffering themselves, and their action was merely a manifestation of that suffering. The Stoics taught that no one does evil intentionally for evil's sake. People always seek what they believe to be good, even if their judgments are mistaken. Understanding this can help diminish your personal resentment. Equally important is self-forgiveness. We often hold ourselves to much harsher standards than we do others. After making a mistake, we can carry guilt and self-condemnation for years. The Stoic approach teaches us to learn from our mistakes and then let them go. You did the best you could with the knowledge and experience you had at that moment. Self-recrimination and self-flagellation are unproductive. Acknowledge the mistake, learn the lesson, and move forward. Forgiveness, both of others and of ourselves, frees up a tremendous amount of mental energy. It allows you to heal old wounds, stop living in the past, and open yourself up to new possibilities and experiences. It's a path to lightness and inner peace. Let's now turn our attention to empathy or compassion. In Stoicism, empathy isn't about getting swept away by others' emotions and feeling them as your own. That can be truly destructive. Instead, it's about understanding that other people just like you face their own challenges, grapple with internal battles, and act based on their unique beliefs and worldview. This insight can profoundly reduce our own frustration anger, and negativity towards others. When someone acts aggressively, unfairly, or simply gets on our nerves, our initial reaction is often judgment and reciprocal negativity. We might think, what an awful person, or how dare they behave like that? However, Stoics taught us to ask a different, more profound question. Why are they acting this way? How can we truly put ourselves in someone else's shoes without absorbing their burdens? Consider that this person might be suffering themselves. Perhaps they're exhausted, ill, dealing with a personal tragedy, or grappling with their own fears and anxieties. Their outward behaviour is often just a manifestation of their inner turmoil. They, like us, are simply trying to navigate life, even if their methods aren't always ideal. Imagine a driver cuts you off in traffic. Instead of instantly falling into a rage, try to consider, could they be rushing to the hospital? Perhaps they've had an incredibly tough day and their focus is simply elsewhere. This isn't about condoning dangerous driving. Rather, this type of reflection allows you to avoid taking it personally and prevents their actions from spoiling your own mood. It significantly diffuses personal offence and anger. Stoic empathy isn't about getting lost in other people's problems, but rather an intellectual understanding of their origins. This perspective allows us to approach others with greater patience and forbearance. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, we should remember that all people are our fellow humans, and they often err out of ignorance, not malicious intent. When you observe someone making a mistake, instead of anger, you can cultivate compassion for their missteps. This powerfully shields your inner peace from external negativity. You stop trying on everyone else's problem, maintaining a healthy emotional distance while still remaining humane and understanding. Ultimately, empathy, in this sense, becomes a vital tool for preserving your own tranquility and fostering harmonious interactions with the world. Now let's shift our focus to our thoughts. This is a crucial area, as most of our negativity originates right here, in our minds. We can't completely halt the flow of thoughts. Our brains are always generating new ideas and concepts. But the Stoics taught us that we can choose which of these thoughts to engage with, which to develop, and which to simply observe and release. Thoughts come and go, and we don't have to cling to every single one. Imagine your mind as a wide river with leaves floating by. Each leaf represents a single thought. You can observe a leaf, but you're not obligated to grasp it and try to alter its course. You can simply watch it drift past. This is essentially the observer technique for your thoughts. When a negative thought arises, for instance, I'm not good enough, or this will never work out, instead of immediately believing it and spiraling into self-criticism, pause, acknowledge, this is simply a thought, it has entered my mind. Then ask yourself, is this thought truly accurate? Is it helpful? Does it serve me in moving forward? Often, negative thoughts turn out to be nothing more than old patterns, irrational fears, or external judgments we've unconsciously adopted as our own. The Stoics encouraged us to subject every thought to rational analysis, checking its truthfulness and usefulness. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. If a thought doesn't align with the facts or serve your higher values, you have every right to release it. There's no need to fight it, argue with it, or try to suppress it. Simply acknowledge its presence and allow it to pass without clinging. Then redirect your attention to something more constructive. This practice requires consistency. Initially, it might feel challenging because we are accustomed to identifying with our thoughts, but over time, you'll learn to create mental space between yourself and the stream of your thoughts. You'll realize that you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them, the one who chooses which ones truly deserve your attention. This understanding grants incredible freedom and is a powerful tool for cultivating your inner peace, safeguarding it from unwanted negativity. Now let's turn our attention to what Stoics call the inner citadel. It's one of the most inspiring metaphors in Stoicism. Picture your mind, your very essence, as an impregnable fortress that no one can breach without your consent. This inner citadel is your personal sacred sanctuary, your inner world. which you can shield from the onslaughts of external negativity. The core idea is this: while the external world may be full of chaos, injustice, criticism, and unforeseen events, your inner world remains entirely within your control. No one can truly make you feel distressed unless you grant them permission to do so. Others may hurl insults, but their barbs cannot harm you unless you assent to them and allow them to penetrate your inner sanctum. How then do we defend our minds from external attacks? It requires constant practice and vigilance. First, remember the principle of control. What lies within your citadel? Your perceptions, your judgments, your reactions. These are all within your control. What lies outside? Other people's words, their actions, external circumstances. You cannot control these things. Do not let them breach your walls. Secondly, actively practice reframing your perceptions. When confronted with criticism or negativity, do not open the gates of your citadel to these words. Instead, pause at its ramparts and ask yourself, is this a fact or just someone's opinion? Does this truly apply to me, or is it merely a projection of someone else's issues? You have the power to filter out what comes from the outside and refuse entry to anything that could cause harm. Thirdly, practice apatheia in the Stoic sense, which doesn't mean apathy or emotionlessness, but rather a freedom from irrational passions or unhealthy attachments. If you are not attached to others' praise, then others' criticism cannot pierce your defences. If you are not attached to material possessions, their loss will not shatter your inner fortress. Marcus Aurelius frequently invoked this idea, reminding himself that he could retreat into his inner world at any moment. This inner citadel is a place where you find peace, even when a storm rages around you. It is your last line of defence, the awareness that you possess this inviolable sanctuary, where no one can reach without your consent, is a source of immense strength and confidence. You are the guardian of your inner fortress, and only you determine what gains entry and what remains external. Let's talk about the role of challenges. In modern society, we often seek comfort and try to avoid any difficulties, perceiving them as inherently bad. However, the Stoics held a completely different perspective. They viewed hardships, problems, and setbacks not as obstacles, but as unique opportunities for growth, character building, and the development of virtues. For them, every challenge was a form of training for the soul. Why are problems actually training for your soul? Imagine an athlete. They won't get stronger if they always train with light weights. They need challenges, resistance, and heavy loads for their muscles to grow and become stronger. It's the same for our character and our psyche. If we constantly stay within our comfort zone, we'll never develop resilience, courage, patience, or wisdom. When you encounter a difficulty, it's not a punishment, but an opportunity to demonstrate your best qualities. Were you fired from your job? That could be a chance to learn a new profession, start your own business, or find a more suitable position. Did you face injustice? That's an opportunity to show integrity and courage by defending yourself or others. Are you being criticised? That's a chance to exercise moderation and wisdom without succumbing to anger. The Stoics deliberately embraced challenges. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold. Adversity tests courageous men." They believe that a person's true strength is revealed precisely in moments of crisis. Negativity, therefore, ceases to be something to be avoided at all costs, and instead transforms into a kind of training ground, helping you to become better. This changes your entire outlook on failure. Instead of experiencing a setback as the end of the world, you can view it as a valuable lesson. What did I learn? What can I do differently next time? How has this situation made me stronger? This perception of difficulties doesn't make them any less painful, but it gives them meaning. It transforms a negative experience into a constructive one. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become an active participant in your own growth. Every problem is an opportunity to prove what you're capable of, to strengthen your inner citadel, and to emerge from the situation stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This is a fundamental shift in mindset that allows you not just to accept negativity, but to actively use it for your own benefit. Let's now explore how our ego often becomes a source of suffering. In today's world, with its intense focus on personal success, recognition, and self-esteem, our ego is constantly under pressure. This excessive attachment to ourself, our image, our achievements, and our expectations frequently leads to disappointment, pain, and negativity. Letting go of this over-attachment to ourself brings in an incredible sense of relief. How can we stop taking everything personally? Our ego loves to be the center of attention. It wants to be right, to be the best, to be recognized. And when something goes against these desires, we're criticized, we fail, someone else receives more praise. Our ego reacts with pain, resentment, or anger. The Stoics taught that a person's true worth doesn't depend on external recognition, social status, or material possessions. It's rooted in their virtues and character. When you realize this, you begin to separate your true self from your ego. Imagine someone insults you. If your ego is strong, you'll perceive this as a personal attack on your worth, which will trigger intense negativity. But if you recognize that an insult is merely another person's words, perhaps spoken out of their own ignorance or pain, and that those words don't define who you truly are, then you can step back. The insult will pass by without harming your inner citadel. This practice requires constantly reminding yourself that you are not your job, your possessions, your appearance, or others' opinions of you. You are your mind, your character, your virtues. If someone criticizes your project, it doesn't mean they are criticizing you as a person. It's criticism of the project. By separating these things, you reduce the intensity of your negative reaction. Furthermore, letting go of egoism means accepting that you're not the center of the universe. Sometimes bad things don't happen to me, they just happen. When you stop perceiving every problem as a personal injustice, you find serenity. This isn't indifference, it's humility. When you loosen the ego's grip, you become more flexible, more open to learning, and less vulnerable to others' judgments. You stop depending on external validation and discover an inner source of confidence. This frees you from a tremendous amount of stress and negativity that the ego constantly generates in its attempt to protect its fragile image. To let go of the ego is to find true freedom and peace. Let's explore the profound value of silence and solitude. In our hyper-connected world, where constant noise, notifications, and social interactions are the norm, finding time for oneself in quiet solitude can feel like a luxury, or even an oddity. Yet the Stoics, who lived long before the advent of the internet and smartphones, deeply understood the vital role of solitude in maintaining mental equilibrium and combating negativity. Time spent alone helps us process events, restore our inner balance, and strengthen what they called our inner citadel. Why is silence truly golden for the mind? When we are constantly bombarded by information and external stimuli, our minds become overwhelmed. We don't have enough time to process what's happening, digest our emotions, or make well-considered decisions. The noise of the external world drowns out our inner voice, causing our minds to operate in a reactive mode rather than a reflective one. Solitude, even for just 15 to 30 minutes a day, offers your mind a much-needed respite. This is a time when you can process what has happened, review the day's events, assess your reactions, and understand what was within your control and what was not. This helps you learn from experience and avoid repeating mistakes. Process emotions. Instead of suppressing or ignoring negative emotions, in silence, you can calmly observe them, acknowledge their existence, understand their source, and then release them, preventing them from overwhelming you. Restore inner balance. Just as the body needs rest, the mind needs stillness. Solitude allows you to reduce stress levels, calm your nervous system, and restore clarity of thought. Connect with your true self. In the noise of the external world, it's easy to lose touch with your true values, goals, and desires. Solitude offers the opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to remember what truly matters to you. This doesn't necessarily have to be formal meditation, although that is certainly beneficial. It could be as simple as a solo walk, sitting by a window with a cup of tea, leaving your phone aside, or just a few quiet minutes before bed. The key is to create a space free from external demands and distractions. This practice allows you to regularly cleanse your mind of accumulated negativity, much like you would clean your home. Without this mental decluttering, the mind becomes congested and negative thoughts can start to dominate. Silence and solitude are not an escape from the world, but rather a strategic retreat to strengthen yourself so you can return to the world more resilient, centered, and prepared to face its challenges. Now let's talk about humility. In Stoicism, humility isn't about self-abasement or weakness. Quite the opposite. It's a profound and powerful awareness of your place within the vast cosmos, an acceptance of your limitations and your relative insignificance on the universal scale. This awareness can actually relieve the immense pressure we often put on ourselves and significantly reduce the negativity tied to our personal troubles. Why can simply looking up at the stars change your perspective on your problems? When we're caught up in our daily grind, our issues loom large, feeling all-consuming. A disagreement with a colleague, financial struggles, personal setbacks, any of these can feel like the end of the world. Our ego inflates them to incredible proportions. But if we step back and view ourselves and our troubles from a cosmic, eternal perspective, everything shifts. Imagine you are a tiny speck of dust on a small planet, orbiting a star that is just one of billions within a single galaxy, which itself is merely one of billions of galaxies in the observable universe. Suddenly, your huge problems shrink to almost imperceptible size. This isn't meant to trivialize your feelings. Your experiences are real and deeply important to you, but it helps place them into proper context. Is a minor workplace mishap truly significant in the grand scheme of your entire life, let alone the vastness of the universe? Most likely, no. Humility also involves acknowledging that we are not omnipotent. We can't control everything. We don't know everything. We make mistakes, and that's perfectly okay. Letting go of the illusion of omnipotence lifts the heavy burden of always needing to be perfect and always right. It enables us to be more compassionate towards ourselves and others. When you practice humility, you stop clinging so tightly to your achievements, your ego, and your fixed ideas of how things which should be. You embrace the impermanence of the world and your own inherent vulnerability. This leads to a profound inner calm. You become less reactive to external events because you understand that many things simply happen, and they aren't necessarily directed personally at you. Practicing humility can be as simple as gazing into the night sky, reflecting on the immense scales of time and space, or realizing how much in your life is influenced by circumstances, not solely by your efforts. This doesn't diminish your hard work. Instead, it provides a healthier foundation. Humility is the key to freeing yourself from pride and the often unrealistic expectations that so frequently breed negativity. It's a path toward a more grounded, peaceful, and realistic existence. Now we come to one of the deepest and perhaps most challenging concepts in Stoicism. Amor fati, the love of one's fate. This isn't merely the acceptance we've discussed before. It's an active, conscious, and even joyful embrace of everything that happens in your life, good or bad. It's about welcoming every single event as an integral part of your journey, even the most difficult and painful moments. How can one learn to love even what seems unbearable? This requires a radical shift in mindset. Instead of resisting misfortunes or wishing things were different, Amor Fati urges you to view every event without exception as an essential component of your personal story and your growth. Everything that happens to you is raw material for your growth, for the strengthening of your character. Imagine an artist. They can't just choose bright and beautiful colours. They need all shades, including the dark and seemingly unattractive ones, to create a complete and profound work of art. Your life is your masterpiece, and every experience, every turn of fate, every victory, and every defeat, these are the brushes and colours that shape your unique canvas. When you practice Amor Fati, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become an active co-creator of your destiny, even if you can't control every event. You say yes to everything life brings, because you understand that this yes is the only path to your wholeness and strength. For example, you face a significant loss. Instead of saying, "Oh, if only this hadn't happened," Amor Fati suggests, "This happened. It is part of my fate. How can I learn from this? How can I become stronger because of this? What can I do with this experience?" This doesn't mean you won't feel sadness or grieve, but it does mean you won't resist the reality of what has occurred. Nietzsche, who also spoke of amor fati, described it as the formula for man's greatness, not to wish that anything should be different, either in the past or in the future, or throughout all eternity, not merely to endure what is necessary, but to love it. This is the highest degree of Stoic resilience. When you begin to love your fate entirely, you free yourself from all the if-onlys, what-ifs, and why me questions. You embrace your life as a unique and perfect path, meant specifically for you. This brings a deep and unshakable peace, because you no longer fight against reality, but merge with it. It is the final step towards complete freedom from negativity. And finally, let's talk about practice. Stoicism isn't just a collection of eloquent words or an intellectual pastime. It's not a theory you simply memorize and then forget. It's a living philosophy that demands continuous, daily effort and self-reflection. Without consistent practice, all these principles will remain mere abstract ideas, failing to bring any real change into your life. How do you actually integrate these principles into your life? It's much like training a muscle. You won't get strong just by reading a book about weightlifting. You need to go to the gym and lift weights. The same applies to Stoicism. You must apply its principles every single day. Here are some concrete steps you can take. Morning reflection. Each morning, upon waking, dedicate 5 to 10 minutes to reflection. Think about the day ahead. What challenges might arise? How can you apply the principles of control, perception, and virtue? Seneca himself recommended anticipating misfortunes and planning your reaction in advance. Evening review. Before bed, take time for self-examination. How did your day go? Where did you succeed in applying Stoic principles? Where did you succumb to emotions or try to control what was beyond your power? What could you have done differently? Marcus Aurelius, for instance, kept a journal that eventually became his famous Meditations. Practice here and now. Throughout the day, consciously bring yourself back to the present moment. When you eat, eat mindfully. When you work, focus on one task. When you converse, listen fully to the person speaking. Dichotomy of control. In any stressful situation, ask yourself, what here is within my control and what isn't? Focus solely on the former. Reframing, perception. When faced with negativity, criticism, setbacks, failure, pause and ask, how can I view this differently? What benefit or lesson can I extract from this? Gratitude practice. Regularly, ideally every day, take time to think about or write down a few things you are grateful for. This won't always be easy. You will make mistakes, stumble, and sometimes forget the principles. That's perfectly normal. The key is not to give up. Each time you return to your practice, you strengthen your Stoic muscles. Over time, these principles will become second nature to you, deeply ingrained in your mindset. Stoicism is a journey, not a destination. It's a continuous pursuit of wisdom, virtue, and inner tranquility. And every step on this path will bring you closer to a life free from the tyranny of negativity, a life where you are the master of your mind and your destiny. Perhaps the most profound insight of Stoicism is the realization that the only thing truly within our control is our attitude towards what happens to us. This is a game changer. When you grasp that you can't control external events, but you can completely control your reaction to them, it fundamentally shifts your perspective. This is where your incredible power truly lies. You are not a victim of circumstances. You are the master of your inner world. So, as we've explored, Stoicism offers a powerful framework for overcoming negativity. It teaches us the wisdom of discerning what's in our control, the strength found in acceptance, and the art of reframing our perceptions. By applying these principles, you can not only navigate life's challenges, but truly grow stronger because of them. Thank you for joining us today. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future content. And of course, let us know in the comments below, which Stoic principle do you find most impactful in your own life, and why?